Welcome everybody. On behalf of the Board of Governors, thank you for being here tonight. I appreciate you coming. Obviously we're all here because we care for this hospital very much. And so just to spread a little ground rules here as we get started tonight, we're going to give our CEO, Roy Davis, just a little bit of time to provide some information as we open up. And then once he is done, we'll open the floor to any questions that you may have for him or us. We'll let that go for about 30 minutes until 6:45, right in that vicinity, as questions come out. So again, thank you very much. We appreciate you being here. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Roy.
Good evening and welcome everybody tonight. First, I want to give an update. I'm sure you've seen the press releases that we were trying to look for acquisition or partnership with systems. Unfortunately, healthcare is losing business right now for everybody. So we were unable to find anyone to do a full acquisition, and then also we were not able to do any partnerships. The main issues there is the bonds. We owe about $7 million on our bonds to Fifth Third Bank and Huntington Bank. That's on this new hospital addition on this end, and then the second part is the OPERS retirement. So when another hospital takes over an OPERS facility, all of that liability moves over to that facility, whether it's a partial stake in the place or it's a full takeover. And so what OPERS did, John Casey, when he was governor, was pushing the debt of the OPERS off the state books back to the institutions, the counties, the townships, the other hospitals. So ours runs about $17 to $25 million worth of liability. So that's all future retirement payments and health care payments. So that's a huge thing to have on the bottom line of a hospital that makes $25 million a year. If another system took us over, all that liability would move over to their books, which if you run a business, you would not want to pick up that much liability and debt on your books, plus the bonds. So we tried our best for 6 months. We got close on a lot of deals. It was just, once their accountants and bean counters got down to it, it was just impossible to find a way for them to make money, which is a lot of systems want to do. It's to make money. So what we're doing now is going through and readjusting, moving to Plan B. So a lot of the feedback I get from the communities, the employees, the board, is what the community needs is an emergency room. It needs some surgery, some inpatient, but most importantly, it needs its primary care. It needs to be able to get its x-rays lab, its 3 therapies, speech, physical, occupational, respiratory, and to keep those things local. And of course, when you have the big things, you go to Toledo, Fort Wayne, stuff like the normal patterns. To the Mercies, the Bromedicas, Parkeys, that thing wouldn't change. How did we get here? 2017, they signed over their billing rights to a third-party vendor to bill patients in Texas and Florida for lab work. The big insurance companies, Anthem, United Healthcare, Medical Mutual, came back and placed basically a $25 million fine on the hospital. The people that did the deal with the hospital are all in prison. They were all given federal sentences of 10 to 20 years. They did this to a bunch of hospitals from Ohio down to Florida. Every other hospital that's went through this is closed. We were able to get Anthem to bring our rates back up to normal. That started August 1st. So their penalty over the last 5 years is they've kept 50 cents of every dollar they paid us, which is killer. So every surgery we did, we lost money on it. Every x-ray we did, we lost money on it. It's just this continuation of these things like that. COVID hit 2020. Federal government did payroll protection loans, about $3.5 million. That kept the place afloat. Also did Medicare advance payments, which was about $10 million, which kept the place afloat to get through those penalties and stuff like that. Went with the new electronic medical records in May of 21. did it during COVID where they didn't have anyone on site to train people. Previous CEO pulled the trigger to go live with it, with it only being 23%. She was warned that it'll financially ruin the place. That decision there cost $15 million at least for us to rebuild and repair our billing system, which is still broken. We're still working with Meditech on things. It's a lot of things going on in the background. So the operational changes we did, closing OB was the hardest thing I did, but the state of Ohio was only paying us $1,400 per birth, and our coverage to cover staff and liability and equipment was about $50,000 a baby, and it's just an unsustainable number. To do that, that bought us more time, about $2.2 million a year. You know, we did a lot of adjustment of staffing. We're very limited on inpatient. It's very expensive to do inpatient. Our inpatient unit runs about $6 million a year to run, because you got to have not just the nurses, you got to have the social workers, you got to have the IT support, you got to have the respiratory, you got to have all the therapies, you got to have radiology covered. So we've done these cuts to get closer to breaking even. If you took this individual year and last year, it's our two highest revenue years we've had. This year will be about $31, $32 million in revenue, when the average has been 20 to 25. We just can't overcome that massive debt from the insurance penalties and the EMR conversion. So we work with our vendors daily. They're all still cooperating with us. Our biggest fear is one of us shuts us off. Surgery supplies, our EMR, our electricity, things like that. And then there's big things, big pictures that's happened nationally and in the state. So anybody on Medicare, Medicare Advantage. So traditional Medicare pays 30 cents on the dollar. Medicare Advantage pays 25 cents on the dollar. So everything we used to get $30 for, we now get 25 cents. Medicaid in Ohio flipped to a new system February 1st. We didn't get a dime out of them. We still have not got a correct dime out of them yet, till the end of August. They didn't notify their vendor that it was broke till June 27th. So now Medicare is paying us too low. Medicaid hasn't paid us anything. But you know, the people here keep fighting. They watch what they do, and that's being able to keep us open. So there's just a lot of big things going on. And then when you look at the insurance companies, United Healthcare has $45 billion in a rainy day fund. What do they need $45 billion for? It's just, there's a lot of things going on that that we're trying to fix. Probably things you've heard in the community. Dr. Grohouse did sign with ProMedica, but he will continue to do his surgeries here. So that's a good thing for us. We still have the $1.5 million in a fund for our new MRI machine. We just got $220,000 for IT upgrades, but we got a lot more money to invest in our IT system to keep running function. Challenges we've had to do. I mean, we tried to borrow money for a year, and when you have no credit, you can't borrow money. And we wanted to hang on to our employees as long as possible without doing layoffs, which put us behind on insurance claims, put us behind on OPERS. We've caught up the employees' OPERS claim, got creative, switched our employees over to stipends. It's not the best deal, but we also give them a 35% discount in-house if they have the stuff done here. So we've done everything we can to survive, and we're as lean as you can get. We have no muscle, fat, anything to cut off. We're a bare-boned operation right now. So I guess I'll leave it there for questions.
Can you explain in more detail what are those insurance penalties?
So the deal with the people who went to prison was they kept 80% of the money they collected, and the hospital got 20%. But when people go to prison, they can't pay back money. So we were stuck with the full $25 million to pay back.
What did they do with all that money?
So the 10 people they sent out to the hospitals as salespeople, they're all in federal prison, and the doctor that led it, Dr. Seth Gutenberg, you can Google him, he fled to Israel with about $1 billion. So he ripped off about 46 hospitals with this scheme. So they ran it through a hospital in Illinois called the People's Choice Hospital. You can Google any of these phrases, New York Times covered it, a bunch of people. But they just ripped off desperate hospitals. Giving out your tax ID and billing information is like giving out your social security number. It's on you too. You know what I mean? You just opened up your piggy bank to criminals. So he's in Israel right now, and they're trying to get him extradited back for federal and civil penalties. So we do have a lawyer in Illinois that's following for us. So.
What are we looking at for just in the future now that we're not going to have anybody looking at us to take over? I mean, how are we surviving? I know you said we're lean as lean can be.
So we kind of see what does the savings look like with Dr. Growhouse's salary moving to ProMedica. Can we find another surgeon to come in to fill in the spaces? I have a meeting with Senator Brown's office. I had COVID last week, so I lost my voice. It was supposed to be last week. I got a meeting with them to see if they can help us. I got invited to Washington earlier this week to talk to the different agencies, U.S. Department of Agriculture, Medicare, Medicaid, to sell our case to them. So that's, I think, the 15th and 16th of January, to say, hey, co-sign with us. That's all we need. We can function. We just need a lifeline. So I think as we struggle along, working through all this, it's just week to week, day to day. But we've never talked about a closing date. We've never talked about, any of that stuff. Yes. Yeah, I don't think we'll find a system, but keep running as long as we can with the people we have. I think that the story that needs to be told is the dedication of the employee and the doctors here, the NPs. I mean, they could go anywhere and make a lot more money at a big system. And they stay because they're loyal to the patients. They all have stories of delivering their babies here. They all have stories of a doctor catching something early with their mom. It's just a wonderful story. It was just mismanaged by a couple bad CEOs. It should have always been a successful place. So
going back to the lab, the administrative staff that was involved in that decision, what kind of repercussions are we moving forward with the lawsuit?
So there's motions
We can't hear
against
the questions over here, Ro. Can you repeat them so we can hear?
Sure.
We can't hear what they're saying.
repercussions against CEOs for the lab. So there's the claims against, as an executive, you get an insurance policy. So there's claims against them. It takes a lot of work through, but hopefully there's a settlement there sooner than later. It's we're not going after their personal assets. We're not going after their retirement. It's I think they were good people. Just made a very bad decision that not only affects 200 people left here, but 3 townships. And I feel it every day.
Would it be possible for us to take a vote as employees to dissolute OPERS, to give that up? That's not.
No. So it's township owned. To get away from OPERS, you need to do 2 steps. One is to go private. To go private as an organization, you rename it, get all new tax ID numbers, but you also can't bill for about 100 days, which kind of answers that question. So that's the first step, and then the second step is an organization will take you over, which will eliminate OPERS. all employees have the right to keep OPERS. You can't pressure them not to take OPERS. It's a state right. It's written into the Ohio Revised Codes, and it's a criminal penalty, so won't even broach it.
What about bankruptcy?
We went through that last summer. So no government entity in Ohio has ever declared bankruptcy. So we'd have to get approval by the governor's office and the attorney general's office. The attorney, we did find it that does bankruptcy, said it'd cost at least $500,000 once you were done with all that. And we could definitely just take the $500,000 and pay that amount of vendors. So we decided to pull away from that because one, we didn't know if it would go through. Two, you don't want that headline because vendors will start shutting you down, bondholders will start pulling the bonds or calling the bonds, and then you're in a much bigger mess. So we did look at that a lot, spent a lot of time on that. It was just too big a risk and cost to attempt.
How much time can you operate the way you're operating?
We don't know. The biggest problem is we're at the mercy of the insurance companies paying us. So we need about $80,000 a day to run. So some days they pay us $250,000. Some days they pay us $4,000. It's up and down, sideways. They play 3 games: deny, delay, and then underpay. It's horrible, and what it's doing is it's just crushing all healthcare. I mean, ProMedica is a $7 billion a year hospital. They lost $1 billion last year. You know, and they've got hundreds of people where we got one person doing the job. So it's we don't know at times. Yes, that and electronic medical records conversion. About a total of $40 million.
So, one question, I think you mentioned that did ProMedica purchase a portion of our facility? I think you were mentioning the different groups that pay out.
They were going to until OPERS explained, their attorneys explained, they will take on the liability of all those employees. So now they have to explain the rest of their employees why they're paying us an extra 14% when they're Toledo get 3%. So anybody's going to stop that deal.
So, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you say the family physicians, they'll still be with us too as well, right? As far as the lab and all of those are still going, everything kind of still continues as it's continuing as long as it can.
Right.
Okay.
So, is the continuation an unknown?
Yes.
Roy, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, we can't hear the question.
Sure, sorry. She asked if the continuation of the hospital is unknown. It is. A lot of people have joined us in the same boat. Many hospitals in Ohio, southern states, things like that. There's a lot of hospitals that are very fragile financially is the polite way to say that.
So what would be our saving grace, like these lawsuits or whatever?
Maybe it's still a risk there. When she want to know what saving grace is. So when you go into an insurance claim, you know how they fight you on an auto insurance claim, how they're going to really fight this. So then, can we prove it? Yeah, we've got court testimony admitting they did the crime. How fast do they pay us? Do they keep taking us to appeals court? Do they keep moving it? Do you know what I mean? Because like the insurance companies are national, so they could take it to Toledo where we don't have a friendly audience. So it's still an unknown on how we collect that. But yeah, we're still trying to get that.
So, Lori, what's the decision then to make for you guys? What is the end goal?
I think we'll discuss that in executive session. We wanted to give everybody a chance here to know what's going on with their hospital, and then also with do is future plans.
So what if like the supply, our surgery supplies and everything, like what if they're like, we're done, you guys owe us too much money, we're not participating anymore, I mean,
Right.
we do surgery, we can't run.
So, hospitals usually run on having savings accounts, rainy day funds. This place is always ran on cash on hand, we pay. When we walked in, there was no budget. There was no billing cycle. We didn't know when bills were coming in. It took us a year just to figure out when Medline was due, when the Meditech payment. There was no constructed financial department in the hospital. It was just an Excel spreadsheet. So Medline works with us great. We're part of the Ohio State Network, which gives us great leeway with Medline. So, like here we were close to not paying, but we got them paid because we had good deposit dates. We just can't consistently get good deposit dates in a row is what's driving a lot of this thing. So, that's the biggest challenge is that unpredictability. Most people in here, you're getting a paycheck every 2 weeks. Well, in healthcare, you get paid when you're like a contractor. You get paid when a person writes a check to you, not when you're supposed to be getting paid. So.
I'm confused. You're painting a picture that you have a plan B, as you call it. And yet I heard you say you really don't know where you're going to correct this. So how should I look at that?
What it is. It's
what is it?
Which part?
To continue this operation.
I think what we've been doing for 2 years, we just keep fighting and struggling and hoping something turns out for us.
You never answered her question. She asked you what happens if we can't pay, we can't get in supplies. What happens if we can't get in supplies and we can't have surgeries or we can't get medications?
I think it's pretty self-evident.
We're closing.
Closing or delaying or.
So it's day to day. I mean, we don't know if we have a job tomorrow.
You'll have a job.
Next week?
Yes.
No. You said $80,000 a day to run this place. What about all those back bills? Is that $80,000 considered paying those two?
80,000 is operations, and we collect about 500,000 a week, so 100,000 of back bills.
Roy, is the ask to hang in there, see what happens with DC, and go with this level of flexibility?
What I've told every employee, every provider is what you do and the security of your family, your paycheck is totally on you. Anybody that leaves, I understand. I don't blame them. It's just how it is.
I'm independent. I just care about this hospital. I started my practice with nothing. I started my practice with 3 patients. I have no bank loans, nothing. You guys are it for me.
Can you repeat it then?
Okay,
Whoever
instead
said
of-
something that.
So I just wanted to thank him for giving it his best shot.
Yes.
Thank you.
And the patients are getting it.
Roy, would you go into Senator Brown and Washington? Is there anything that individuals could do to try to spur any other momentum?
Yeah, I think thank you for saying that. I thought of that earlier. So what we talked to Congressman, we talked to the Attorney General a month ago. I mean, we're getting stolen from these insurance companies. And they had no idea until we had that meeting. I mean, there was 5 independent hospitals. One hospital's down to paying their employees weekly because they can't get enough money saved. Another hospital, of course, converted to Meditech. They have $15 million just stuck in drug charges. So everybody's going through these pains. I just think, I know people aren't comfortable with radical transparency. That's what I believe in. You need to know what the future looks like. The story there. If you could contact your congressman, your senators, the attorney general's office, he has a team working on this for the hospitals. I mean, when you sign a contract and the Anthem says we're going to pay you 80 cents on the dollar, and we're getting 39 cents on the dollar, they're breaking the contract. But what they do is we have 2 attorneys, they have 50 attorneys. So it's a 6-month battle just to get a response.
If you have a signed contract, that can go straight, isn't it in black and white? That's what they're gonna pay you if they're breaking the contract.
Right.
Breaking the contract.
So when you look at the top donors to politicians, 9 out of the top 10 are insurance companies.
But if they're breaking the law, they're breaking the law. Take them to court.
Right, which is really expensive.
They got $45 billion.
One company does.
One company does. And that's one of the bigger companies. You said it was Medicare.
That's Anthem.
Boy,
Oh, that's United Health.
Man.
Yeah, Anthem's bigger.
If I signed the contract and wasn't making the payments, I'd be in jail and making the payments.
Well, the problem
What makes
is
the difference between a normal person and a company? Just because they donate to a politician?
Yeah, so the problem is you're from an honorable part of the country. You know what I mean? A person does what they say they're going to do.
Hmm?
They don't. They make up rules.
Who does?
The insurance company.
Where's the government agencies that oversee them?
They're getting political donations.
So in other words, we have a bunch of idiots in office.
Yeah.
Why do we keep electing idiots in office?
Yeah, you're on a different stuff now.
Known, right? Blow up their email, blow up their phone. But this,
individuals.
on that end, I do think that was a really good point in that I think a lot of people don't know what to say or where to send it. Is there, I don't know if our hospital can release it or something, but somewhere that they can find that information or that we could release what you would want to be said?
Yeah, I think we could do a form letter, make it a PDF, attach it to Facebook, list all the addresses to the different offices. It's harder in-state because they're all term limited representatives and senators. By the time they figure out that Medicaid is broken, their term's up, so it's a brand new group. But we definitely, I mean, we do have the support of Sherrod Brown's office and Marcy Captors. They're just limited to getting stuff in our budget. I mean, like the MRI machine, it was just a blessing. I mean, $1.5 million. Sherrod Brown's not getting 10% of the vote in Defiance County, but he got it in there. And, and next year we got $2.5 million coming from Marcy Captor and Sherrod Brown to redo our pharmacy, redo chemo, to do infusion. All those things that people won't travel to get done. But, the thing is hanging on until we can get that money in the door, remodel the space, and represent 2023, not 2000 healthcare. I mean, 90% of all healthcare is outpatient or at home, so, yeah.
I want to kind of direct this to the board because I don't know anybody on the board, a couple of you, but you got this bomb drop in your lap when you came through. You got it. But what about the 5-6 years? Did the board not receive financials from what was going on previously? You didn't look at them very well? Because you're all up there, y'all want to be in a position of, I'm here, but this poor man has taken a beating in our community. So I don't know who's president, but if you got a name of president, you should be standing up there and telling us why the board hasn't seen any financials, because this is not right.
And why they approved what was done.
Okay, just my name's Kermit Reilly. I'm the board president. I have served on the board for 11 years, and I would just tell you that nobody cares more about this hospital than I do. There's a doctor in the front row who's cared for my mom for 30 years. There's a nurse in the second row that delivered all my kids. there's a nurse in the back row that helped deliver those kids as well. So nobody else cares more about this hospital. The disadvantage of a board is that we are at a 20,000-foot platform, and that the information that we are provided by the CEO and the officer team is basically things that we have to trust. Yes, we take much time in pointed questions and asking questions and making sure our financials are as good as they can be as a board, but we meet once a month is what we meet. So totally transparent. From the time that I've been on the board to now, we've always struggled with collecting money. We've always struggled with our AR, our accounts receivable. National average, I think, Roy, is about 50 to 55 days, or I think the last I saw last month was 180. So between the transition of Cerner to Meditech and that whole train wreck, we just have not been able to collect bills. Yeah, all the other federal initiatives that are strapping us is not easy either. But locally, we have to be able to collect money. Insurance claims slow that down, yes, it does. But the bottom line is that our AR days are out of control, and they have been for the 12 years that I've been on the board.
If the old CEO was warned that the Meditech was gonna ruin us, then why
Something they never told us.
They told her, right? I mean, she knew, or we
Correct.
we were
Correct.
in the dark?
Never told the board.
But she
But
was
she
involved
didn't
in
do
the
that.
lab deal, so why was she rehired as CEO?
Because at the time, we didn't know that it was wrong.
We as employees knew that we were no longer getting paid by Hicksville. And a couple of years later, she became CEO and changed us to Meditech. How?
Again, we only know what we know. We only know what we know.
Why don't you ask more questions?
We ask a lot of questions. We ask a lot of questions.
How can you not know that we're not getting paid for that long? That the hospital was receiving no money from insurance when Meditech went live?
I know Roy said 2 weeks in here, and he knew that there was bad stuff going on.
As I said, we are a board that's appointed by the community. We're here once a month. We take the information that we're given. We were never showed the information that if we rolled it out at that given time, that it would be 25 to 30% collectible. We were never given that information. We asked numerous times, are we ready to roll this out? And we were given the information that we were.
Well, we're hearing it through the county, and you guys are all business owners or whatever. I've been here 2 years and I've heard more stuff that makes me want to throw up. And you're saying you don't hear anything but the paperwork they give you, and no one can just, it seems like passing the buck to me.
No,
It's just not. I mean, that's why I
It's not at
feel.
all.
Because
It's
we
not.
got all these people that are gonna lose their jobs.
We hire the officer team to do the job for us at the hospital, the bottom line.
But how does she even
And
qualify?
so we trust them to do that job.
Foolish.
So
So nobody actually oversees them doing their job to make sure that they're doing it properly?
there's checks and balances at a monthly meeting, but that's the extent of it.
That's a lot of money to lose for nobody to know.
And you had no clue they went through depositions of the
Yes,
lab stuff?
yes. Well, those were things that we were aware
You
of.
had no clue of that?
We were aware of the things that were being investigated.
Okay,
Yeah.
but then she was hired as CEO after that. What were,
But she wasn't CEO at the time.
she wasn't, but she was CNO.
Right.
And was rehired as CEO. Where did you see that jump? She had already made a very, very poor decision, and you knew about it. And
She
then
wasn't CEO, she was CNO.
she
didn't make the
still
decision.
made the decision.
The CFO and the CEO made the decision.
Okay, that's just tit for tat, but
They were quite.
they were quite involved with that. You cannot tell me she was not involved in that decision. I'm sure you can probably find many employees here that can tell you she was involved in that decision because they personally talked to her about that. That's what makes us so mad, is that he is paying and we are paying and our community is paying for crap decisions made, and the board takes no responsibility of that, of why was that not stopped, and then why was she brought back to control this hospital? And then look where we've ended. One bad decision led to a major bad decision, and we may all lose our jobs. Our patients aren't gonna know where to go. People are gonna die because the EMS is not going to be able to take on that. We had 3 accidents in one day last week. 3 of them had 3 life flights. What are you gonna do when there's no ER here to save those people? And he's exhausted everything and gets nothing but name called, death threats, all this crap thrown at him, and he's the only one taking the blame.
That's not true. We're a board that all of us are bothered by all of this.
He's bothered, but he's getting it physically. You guys go home at night and bingo, you don't even know what's going on in the community. It seems like this poor guy can't walk down the street. And he wouldn't have took this job if he'd have known this was crap.
I can only speak to what was shared with us at the board.
Here we go.
I do have a question. Isn't there some sort of safeguard or safety net that prevents a healthcare desert? Because if this place closes, won't that be a healthcare desert?
There's nothing written in law that square mileage, anything like that.
No.
My gosh, there's a Dollar General at every 5-mile mark. Dollar General has a budget.
Really, I mean, because seriously, if there's an emergent situation at Farmer Brown's house and the nearest place to take him to an emergency room is 35 miles away, that's a problem.
We know.
So I would expect that the government would say, hey, we need this place here.
If there's healthcare deserts, they require to have something.
Yes.
I want to make a comment. I'm very upset by hearing all of this. My husband and I moved back to Hicksville a couple years ago, and I have been being treated for stage 4 lung cancer. Came back to this hospital. I just want to say thank you to all the employees, doctors, nurses, everybody, people in the lab. I get treated absolutely excellent. I want to thank you all for your quality, loving, caring service, even though you have all of this hanging over your head day after day after day, not knowing if you're going to have your job. I understand that in that sense because of my health. It's kind of on the same level. How you know how long you're going to live? Well, how long do these people know they're going to have their jobs? But thank you, each one and all, for all the love, care, and quick service. It's top quality care. I've been to Ohio State and down, and I want to say, I can't get better care than here. Thank you all.
Other questions?
So what's being done to improve the accounts receivable then?
So we have, we just had a meeting today. We have 2 or 3 teams working on this. The biggest underlying issue is Meditech was built so poorly it's still broke. The good news is we do have quite a few good people working on it. So just bills we got out this month was $1 million more than, or November was $1 million more than October. So there is all those old claims we're working through. When the conversion happened from the old EMRs, the medical records to the new one, insurance companies one by one are allowing us to rebuild those. So that's hopeful there, just like at Anthem is sitting, and I know I talk about Anthem a lot, but I really do hate them. They've got about $496,000 worth of claims they're working on for that May go live till that December when I got here. So they're reworking those claims, and then we're working with all the other insurance companies, the Aetnas, United Healthcare, Medical Mutual. But Anthem is our biggest. I mean, they're the factories in the community. It's the biggest bang for the buck. It's just, you know, how long do we hang on till that money comes in, till we can, you know, right size the ship. It's a lot of work and it's a lot of people. It's the people down the hallways by me that you never see. I mean, they work Saturday, Sunday. They work night shifts just to get that amount of bills out. Because when you pick an EMR system, one of the big features is like it's automated. You get a button and you hit send. With Meditech, it's all manual. So you're talking 35,000 bills a month. It's a complete mess, and unfortunately, we're stuck with them because it'd be about 8 to 10 million to convert to a new system.
Is the board meeting, is that like, can you move it up more than once a month? Obviously, we're in a big issue here, like.
Our next one is next Thursday.
But I'm saying, can you guys meet more than once a month, or is that all you guys can meet?
You can meet as often as you want. It's just everything we do takes a lot of work and usually a month to get things moving. Like the anthem I just talked about getting that started last December, and they didn't approve it till July. So we move as fast as we can,
right,
and stay within the boundaries of legal and ethics. We won't cut any corners. So.
One more question about in reference to the board and the questions to them. Obviously, hindsight's 50-50, but in the future, moving forward, is there anything that you can do to have better checks and balances in the future, or is it kind of just the nature of the way the good relationship is anyway?
Well, I mean, we're not healthcare officials. I mean, I've not been trained in healthcare. We're volunteers.
We're talking about financials.
I'm talking about as far as making sure that you hear what you need to hear from the CEO in the future. Not saying that you want to tell them anything, but you know, you're saying that you weren't hearing things, and other people here are saying that it was very well known. Where that disconnect came in, is there somehow that you can have better, or plan to have better checks and balances for that in the future?
Well, I think the answer to that would be just the presentation from our officer team. We struggled with the presentation in those years and being able to provide good financials because we were struggling financially. You know, as Roy said, we were in a situation in those years when we were desperate to be able to pay bills, even to be able to settle with Fifth Third and the bonds and all those things. And so when this lab thing came down the pipe, the officer team thought it would be an opportunity, you know, and on their recommendation, we didn't know any different as a board. I mean, and so we went with that recommendation. They said it was viable. It was an opportunity for us to get out of financial strain, and then we came to find out later that it was, you know, it was a scam. So again, you hire officers to be able to trust them to do the job that you put them in the seats to do. It just didn't work out. So.
Kermit, would it be possible to set up some sort of anonymous whistleblower type thing where, hey, I heard this down the hall and you ought to know about it as a board? Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, something that would just give them a way to communicate directly to you guys, because I mean, if you got your job at stake, you're not going to turn your boss in and run the chance that you don't have a job tomorrow.
And that's not a problem to do. Most hospitals have an anonymous hotline, one for internal and two for patients that aren't comfortable.
Well, that would help that line of communication, I think.
Are we still on track with paying our back, as employees, like our back insurance?
Yeah, so we pay, so once we know we got payroll covered, and OPER's employee portion covered, and employer portion, and then we move the bills. Parkview's been great working with us. Lutheran has, Indiana University, Bryant, the different ones. We've been paying them off as we can, but if we pay off too much, then we don't make our next payroll. So they've all given us interest-free basic loans, like Parkview gave us till May to get them paid off. Lutheran, we just have one section left with them, that's the professional fees, where the doctor sees the patients. So they gave us a 70% discount on all those bills. So our promise is to get everybody's health care bills paid off. And the OPER's employer portion paid off. They did give us a time frame to get the employer portion paid off, which was 3 years, but we plan on trying to have that done by summer too, so everybody's trued up on that.
I got another thing. So I know we're living day by day right now, but is there any way that employees can get more of an update? Like, I feel like there's so many rumors going around and it's hard to like establish what's going on. I feel like I've been in the dark about what's going on, and I know it was like non-disclosure, I know that, but it's just like, hey, we're still going, we're just trying to do this, you know. we're not talking about closing, just, I mean, just a little update,
Right,
encouragement.
so when each of the systems pulled out, that waived our non-disclosure. So we'll be able to give updates on what we're doing. I mean, at monthly, we give the manager's meeting minutes and we give the exact same financials attached there. If there's any question, email, come up, and I'll explain. Healthcare finance is complicated.
I have a
For-
question.
Sure. Can I finish real quick?
Yeah, sorry.
To explain it to these guys, it's complicated to say, hey, for every dollar we're charging, we're gonna get 50 cents on that dollar. It doesn't make sense to a business person. So then you gotta go in through the different insurance policies and stuff like that, so.
Just, are you guys working on paying people back for the bills that they paid their insurance, so that they
Yeah.
didn't go to collections?
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have a time frame at all on that?
I'll talk to you after this.
So I agree with what Ed, and I agree with what Cammie said, that Roy has put in countless hours, and he is like, he's the person who is taking the brunt of all of this, and it is something he didn't create, he is trying to fix it. So how is the board supporting Roy through all of this? So, I mean, for his sake, what are we doing to support Roy so he can continue to do what he feels is best?
I think I get the support. I think when you look at the board, you're talking 4 new members. It's, you know, when I told Herman and Mike of everything that happened, it's the first time they heard. It's, you know, a CEO has a lot of power. A CFO has a lot of power. I mean, the financial fraud stuff, Amy Oski found in the back of a closet. It's a file this long, full of affidavits, FBI files. It's just.
What we do about it though, that's, I mean, I guess I don't understand.
Well.
You're not gonna air your dirty laundry, I understand that,
But as due diligence, as an executive, you need to tell the board good and bad.
Yeah.
And let the chips fall as they may. If they're not happy with you, then they can dismiss you. But it's, if they're getting this story, I mean, Michelle's testimony, wherever it was in Texas, her first statement was we had 4 days cash on hand. I mean, today we have 6 days. So we've been living on this edge. It's just a lot of things have came and hit us all at once. So.
Are you still planning on staying at this range for health?
I don't know. You know, when your whole medical staff's checking on you daily to see if you're still alive in the morning, it's a strain. But I believe in the place. I mean, I've said this a million times. The town I came through, Ohio Health promised to keep that a hospital within 5 years. It's an urgent care with 2 family dogs. It went from 285 employees down to 5. And all they did was buy the hospital next to them and shut them down. And that's the last thing I want to do this here. My parents lived there. So ER was 5 minutes away. Now it's a half hour in each direction. So, you know, they knew their doctors, they knew their nurses. You know, they knew which phlebotomist was the good draw, which one couldn't do the good draw. It's the same feeling you guys are going, and that's why I think we work so hard, is because I've been through that. I've watched that. I mean, it just sucks the soul out of the community. This is a $30 million business sitting in the middle of your community.
So you did not put your 90 days in, because that was a rumor.
I haven't yet. I haven't decided. I am physically worn out. It's, you know, I work 8 hours here, I get home and work 8 hours on the computer. It's through the weekend. I think I've had over 200 texts today. And people are worried, and they have the right. I've always said I have an open door. But it's the constant fight with the vendors. It's, you know, not blaming past administration, because I try not to talk about them, but just leave me something in the checking account for the help.
So maybe we can get the board maybe to refresh themselves, maybe how this hospital runs, so that way people jump on this board. But if they don't know anything, what's the board for, you know?
And I think that's what we do. It's the most complicated business in the world, so you add a little bit each week, and then as third groups of strength, right, you know.
But we don't know what their groups of strength are, because no one's given us any lowdown. He just said they don't know anything. So I'm just saying, how can we?
I think they know everything for the last 2 years.
No, they didn't. When we lost our insurance as employees, I talked to 2 board members that had no idea.
180, they absolutely did. They voted on it. We presented the stipend. The CFO that presented it.
But that's fine, but maybe we're getting the other side of the story.
What's that?
Maybe we're getting a different side of the story. Maybe they don't want to say anything, but if we're gonna survive, they gotta dig deep, because our family members that work here have dug deep. We moved here 2 years ago, and now I'm 65, looking for maybe, what the heck am I gonna do? I have no insurance. Yippee-i-oh, you know? So yeah, I'm committed to this community now. Bought a house here. So that's why you're hearing from me.
Yeah, and I appreciate everybody's opinion.
I'm just really sad that we had to get a letter last December from Unified Group to let us know that we no longer had insurance and our money was being taken out of our paychecks still.
And that's the time frame we were trying to borrow money. We had got approved for $5 million, which would have caught all that up. And then at the very last second, our bond companies blocked it. So they would have approved it, but they would have taken all the money for the bond, and we still wouldn't have had anything.
I just wish we would have been told,
Yeah, why weren't
been
we
honest
told?
with
That was
us.
the thing. What happened to that money that was taken out of our check? If our insurance wasn't paid, where did that money go? That's fraud. If you took it out of my check and said it went to insurance, but I lost my insurance because it wasn't getting paid, where did it go? And that's not previous CEOs.
It went to Unified. It's still, you guys paid 10%, we paid 90%. We couldn't pay the 90%. Could I have came in here and laid off 150 people and kept the last 50 insured? Sure. But at the end of the day, I wanted everybody to keep a job.
But why didn't you come to us and say, we don't have the money to pay this insurance, can you guys
Anita,
pay
we had
for
no
it?
budget. We didn't know anything for 18 months of what was even going on here. We didn't know when bills were being delivered. We didn't know when the bond payments were due. We knew nothing about the business. You can sit there and blame me all night and all week and send emails. I'm telling you the truth of what happened. And I'm telling you the truth of what we've done to try to save the place.
And again,
What did she say?
she's just repeating the fact that we weren't given all the information, and it was difficult for us to make decisions as board because of those reasons. But having said that, understand, all of us have full-time jobs, and that's no excuse. We're hired to be a part of this board. So full transparency is, yeah, we need to know those financials. And I will tell you, these last 2 years, we have finished as close to the black as we've had in the 12 that I've been on the board. And that's a credit to Rob and Roy and Brett and that officer team that's been in place these last few years. So, we can sit here and play the blame game, and we can sit here and be bitter about it, or we can decide as a group, we love this hospital enough that we're going to fight for it. And that's where I'm at. I'm totally transparent with you guys. Mistakes were made with past officer teams. I absolutely understand that. And as president of the board, I take responsibility for that as well. But again, we're not healthcare officials. We put people in their seats to trust them to make the decisions for this hospital and to be transparent with us at board meetings. That did not happen.
And we were audited every year.
And we were audited every year. That did not happen, guys. I'm telling you. We had great board members. There's past board members in the room tonight. All right, and we made great decisions as best as we could based on the information we were given.
There's a question over
Okay, so my thought is this, and let me finish with this. I truly feel that if we can keep this guy in the seat, that we've got every opportunity. If we can collect our bills, we can't operate at 188 AR days. We cannot. And So I don't know how it happens in other hospitals in the country that allow them to get their bills out and back in 55 days, but we've got to find that way. We've got to find a way to get that done. No business, and there's a lot of them represented in this room. I see a lot of you, because I've done business with a lot of you over the years with my family. None of you would operate and survive if you can't collect your bills. Amen?
Yeah.
Is that true?
How do you pass the audit?
How did we pass the audit?
Yeah.
I'm not the CFO. I don't know.
An audit.
Creative.
An audit just tells you where you are. Here's how you did this year. The phrase going concern is in a lot of the audits, which means, hey, you need to make operational changes to get back on the box. You know, did they do them? Was the lab fraud noted in an audit? Yes, it said criminal activity. So those audits have been poor. But the audits, if you go back here 20 years, have all been bad. There's not been a, hey, this is the best year ever. It's been a struggle the whole time.
Right. So that's the bottom line, guys. I really feel if we can get our money collected, that we're gonna be able to survive. I really do. Did you have a question?
Yes. Has anyone been held liable for the fraud that they've done? Misrepresentation.
The people that did the fraud on the outside are all in prison.
But what about the inside?
What about inside?
So they are protected by basically governors and executives, insurance.
But they've been giving false information to the board.
False is a strong word. Maybe not qualified to get that information. Maybe they did the best they could at the time. I mean, I've been around some great CFOs, and the one before Rob was not a great CFO. He had no healthcare experience.
But are they liable for anything? That's what we're getting at. I mean, like the past CFO, CEO.
Aren't they bonded?
That's the insurance we have.
Right, and that's what we're waiting on.
Right.
With Dr. Grodehouse leaving and being the main primary surgeon, will we be able to sustain like money coming in from what he brings in for the hospital? I mean, I know he's gonna work one day, but he's not gonna bring what he's going to do.
So what we have to do is get him pinned down on what he is doing, and then we can start calculating. So when you do surgeries, and if he's doing less, then that's less joints we order, that's less. You know, and it's very expensive to run an orthopedic office. So that's a great pressure off our payroll, and I appreciate Rebecca making this deal with us. Because they could have said, hey, we're not going to let you come there at all. But they did. Because he is very loyal to the hospital, and he understands his importance. We'll just have to keep working to make it more efficient. And you know, I mean, we don't want the 12-hour surgery days. We don't want the killer stuff that, you know, breaks staff's back. But it'll just be a more coordinated, organized thing. So once we get him pinned down, then we can start working Corey, Alicia, what their schedule looks like. Instead of a surgery month of 100, maybe we do 50, 60. But the savings is actually close to what we want to know.
In one press release, it said he was doing surgeries one day out of the week, and then I saw another one that just said he was doing the clinic. So is he still going to do surgery?
Yes, Betty pinned him down today. He will do surgeries in Texas. Sorry, Betty. So we do have him pinned down. Now we need to see clinic, what day of the week, stuff like that. Because, you know, surgery, one change, you're jacking it. Part of it.
Is that a new contract then for him, so that way we pin him down if that happens?
You can't do that.
What about, going on from Dr. Grodehouse, what about our physicians that we have now? We know we're losing Dr. Koistra. How difficult is it going to be to get another doctor in that place to try and keep the patients, the clientele for us? And what about our other physicians now with what's coming down? I mean,
they've each been given the same individual decision. That's between them and me. there's 35,000 open family physician jobs in the United States right now. So that means we're competing against ProMedica, Mercy, Parkview to attract these people. And then I've said it from the day I walked in, our strength is our medical staff. I mean, you don't see this in other small hospitals. You just don't. It's a rare gem that we have. Edgerton will be hard. Jessica will make a run at it as being the NP there, as we do have groups looking for us for family docs to work there. But when, you know, they're showing the Taj Mahal at another place, and then, you know, they see that building from 1975 or whatever.
It's not like on TV where the country doctor looks so appealing
No.
to get out of the big city.
And that's the big difference. Doctors come out of medical school with $300,000 in debt. Those doctors didn't come out with any debt. It's a whole new world, and they got to take care of their family and themselves just like anyone else. So I understand all of the parts.
What can we offer them to keep them here? What else can we offer them?
I think it's the security of knowing that there'll be a hospital here, and all the parts that go with that.
Hey, Roy. I guess I'm a little pessimistic, but let's say worst case scenario, the board votes, we're going to close the hospital. What does that look like from that decision on for the staff?
So there's no vote tonight, there's no vote next week, there's no vote in January. So what we do is we figure out what plan B is. As we clean up this billing and cash motion, we truly see, well, we still have those, stuff like that. The things would be is, so you have to do several steps. You have to notify the state. I think it's 90 days. Then you move through the different steps of it. So worst case scenario, I've talked to all the systems. They would do job fairs here. We would make sure that we had enough revenue coming in to secure people to that date of closure. We would never close the doors and not tell anyone with at least a 90-day notice. It's just not the right way to do it. I've seen hospitals do it, and it's terrible. So.
Do we have money for us employees to continue to receive a paycheck?
We do. It's hard. Some weeks are harder than others. Like last week, so Meditech went down in October, remember? So the money from that week was supposed to be on a payroll week. So unfortunately, we had to take paychecks and paper for the doctors and stuff and wait. But we didn't know what week that non-payment from Meditech being down hit. So once we realized that, then we moved to that. I'm sure they weren't happy with me, but yeah, the money is there.
So the bottom line is, okay, the hospital's in trouble financially, but since you've come here, have you seen any progress to the good? Even though you're still in trouble, it's a process, but have you seen process? Have you seen?
Yeah, so big things. We made both our bond payments on time this year, so we don't get penalties and interest. We do collect better from insurance companies when they do pay us right. So down in the weeds is a charge master, which is what you charge chest x-ray surgery. We fixed that January 1st. We were getting $4,000 for a knee replacement. The joint cost $8,000 to replace. Since January 1st, we've been getting about $35,000 from the insurance company. When we flipped to all rural health clinics, no one finished the contracts and notified the insurance companies. So like at a Medicaid payment, we were getting $27. Since I've been here, we're getting $92 per visit. Dr. Wiley's office in Antwerp, he was getting $85 for Medicare. Now he gets $192 a visit. So all these millions of things that we were trying to do in a year takes 5 to 10 years to do. It's just so many moving parts, and you have, just like a board has to have a good CEO, a CEO has to have a great team. And we do. I mean, we brought in the right people to get that. But it's like unraveling a mystery. I mean, you're talking 30,000 things.
But you do see progress.
I do. It's just how do we get over this hump of the not collecting any cash on the lab and the Meditech. I mean, Those vendors want their money just as bad as anyone. And it was at 15 million when we got here, and that depth for that part's down to 8 million. So we've, in 2 years, increased revenue that much, but it's still juggling everything to pay.
But I think that's a good sign though, isn't it?
It is a good sign, but it's just that unreliability and unpredictability in the future. I mean, we have a ransomware attack, we're dead. If the insurance company has a ransomware attack, we're dead. It's stuff like that.
So with our current billing time, how it takes so many days for us to be billing it back, I realize part of that's having to manually do that. But is there a common denominator, or I know we've shaken up the billing department several times.
So 90% of our denials is within Meditech registration, or how things are crossed over from our place to the insurance companies, because they all have AI. So Mercy, when I talked to them, just in Anthem Medicare, they had $100 million in denials in 3 months.
I know I do a lot of peer-to-peers, so that's kind of.
And that's part of their plan, right? Let's get the doc on the phone. She's gonna say, I don't have time for that call, so they'll take the lower. It's their game of just gaming everything out. So I do believe in the people we have billing now. We've only got one issue truly in Meditech, which is instead of a payment being credited, it's debting it. So everybody's got Anthems getting, so those are all manual. We just had a meeting today. We got our cash posting cleaned up, and of course the bad debt thing from 2 months ago, which was a human error, but it was still an error, and it was a very embarrassing, expensive error. We fired that company, and we met with a new company today, and they'll be up and fully running. I think January 1st is what he gave us. So there's a lot of things moving. It just takes a long time to get there.
That's a question. Sorry. And on the end of surgeons and stuff, I know that you have spoken different times about trying to get them in here. Has that been difficult to find surgeons that will come here, or have you had any lot of interest with that aspect?
It's hard because we do need a capital investment in our surgery department. It's probably a third of what it needs to be as far as space. Like urology needs special equipment. You know, if we brought in any other ENT, cataract surgery is very profitable. If we brought that in, we still need that initial money up front to invest. ProMedica is working for us to kind of find those doctors and share them, where we keep the technical part, which is what we want in surgery, and they would charge the professional part. But they have their challenges too, just like we do. University of Toledo's takes their doctor. It's just a whole war.
And one other specialty that I know we had in the past, have we been able to consider getting pain management? Is that something that's done?
Yeah, and pain management needs to be run. You can't run a pain management clinic because they take all the money back to Brian. You have to do the fluoro, you have to do the injections that make that money and keep the patients. People won't travel for that kind of stuff. So running them the space for $30 an hour and not making millions just doesn't work.
But have we been able to, I mean, but there's not anybody that we can get, because I know we had someone here before that we were able to.
Yeah, so I think Parkview kicked out pain management group out of Brian, so they kind of went back to Toledo. And that's an anesthesiologist, and they're not the cheapest things around either, so.
Will all of your satellite offices, like Antwerp, Harlan, Edgerton, are they still all operational? Will they continue? Do you still have the same doctors?
Yes. We do have Dr. Koister resign. His last day will be the 18th of December. And Jessica Slatterly, she's an experienced MD. She'll be up there and maintain that office. It's very important to keep healthcare present. So that's the goal.
I just want to make sure that, like, while I'm here, that I heard this right. I hear, like, a lot of hope and optimism that, I mean, that we're going to be okay, even though it's going to be a struggle. And I just wanna make sure I heard this right, like, if we were going to close down, you're gonna give us a 90-day notice as an employee, cause as an employee, you know, I love this hospital, I love the community, I wanna be here, you know, but you gotta think, you know, should you look for other jobs, and if you had, are we gonna have that 90-day window, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, by state law, you have to notify them. Like when St. Luke's closed in Toledo, they had to give a 90-day notice. They were able to either hire everybody within Mercy, or they were able to find them another position. And I think they let all their physicians out of their non-competes also, so they could go.
So it won't be like, don't come in next week, it won't be like that?
No, I wouldn't do that.
Okay.
Or maybe just having like a monthly open forum meeting with all the employees, just 30 minutes, just lunch, you know, just to meet with them and let them know what they have, just to answer your questions. I know it's a lot on you, you have enough on your plate, it's like, how do you find time? You know, like sometimes I'm like, boy, I need to talk to you.
So we'll be having a monthly lunch with Dr. Sorella. Answer all your questions. And it's hard because I can't address every rumor. You know what I mean? And I only give information when I get it. When you talk to a system that's got 10,000 employees, it takes a while to get through their law firm, through their. I know the unknowns there, but I never want to give one false hope. And two, I don't want to say something we're going to do that we can't.
Last one, I promise. My big thing is, how do we continue to ensure that Dr. Groothouse is going to have the supplies so we can continue to do surgery here?
So that's, the reason supplies were behind this week was the payments from
the down week?
The down week. So that's our normal week. So how we pay our bills is 1 week's payroll, next week's supplies, vendors. They hit us on a supply and payroll for that 6.5 days. So that's $600,000. We do have a cyber crimes insurance claim in for that 1.1 million we listed out. So back and forth to the insurance companies, and hopefully we get a portion of that. So.
I mean, that's my big concern. I mean, he's gracious enough to continue to come here, and ProMedica is going to allow him to come here. I want him to be able to do surgery still.
Yes, there's no one in this room knows how bad I want that man to be.
I know.
So there's different organizations that can provide temporary CEO, CFO. Would be a handoff. They would continue. Their expertise would be critical access for a health clinic, things like that. So there wouldn't be a gap in leadership.
But will they care like you?
I doubt it. That's part of the problem.
Would the board step in, like if we just get a temporary, it's not like having you here, it's a temporary thing. I mean, I feel like you're fighting the most, and if we get somebody temporary or somebody, just like a substitute teacher, it's not you, so are we gonna sink? I mean.
No, so what it looks like, and other places have done it successfully, is they interview with the board, like Addie and I would screen them, well-qualified people. There's a lot of hospitals doing worse than us right now. I mean, it's hard to believe, but there are a lot of hospitals doing worse than us. There's been 110 hospitals closed in 6 years in the country, and they're all small. So, you know, that's a board decision how they want to do that, but that would be my recommendation is someone that's, you know, at least CFO experience, CEO, to take that dual role, and they've worked with Meditech, or they know they can dive in and do the job.
What can we do to keep you?
Probably need to call my wife. I was wrong on the doctor. Huh?
Should I invite her to dinner?
Yeah.
Not right now, your kids are all set. Yeah, maybe next week. I can't emphasize this enough. I talked to Mia, if you're still here,
Anyway, Fort Wayne, Wayne 15, I said the strength of this hospital is the people. Anything that's happened here is not any of their faults. It's just bad decisions in the past, just haunt the place. We need local health care. We need a local emergency room. We need that primary care. It's just the mission of what we can do. I think we know what we can do and can't do, and that's what we got to keep focusing on. So,
What would you think of the chances if we can't make it, we close, and we need this here? Would some other big, Parkview, ProMedica, or whatever, come in and would not maybe have to take on to that debt and start something here so the community does have it?
a normal blueprint for a system would they build their own clinic. It would look like an urgent care, family practice with an x-ray lab, drawing station. That's probably what any of them would do. But no one said anything. Parkview tried to buy land from a farmer. He called the board called me, and I said, no, I appreciate it if you pass on that, and he did. So there is support for not letting the big systems in. So.
If there is support, could we try another capital campaign?
It would be rough. It takes a lot of time and investment to do a capital campaign. And it's a hard sell right now to sell, hey.
There's a lot of people here tonight.
Right. Yeah, it's just hard and difficult to make that ask until we get a secure bottom line. Because the last thing, I mean, I've had people call and say, hey, can I loan you $100,000? And I don't want that unless I know I can pay it back. You know what I mean? People donated before to buy x-ray machines, help build a cafeteria, stuff like that. They don't want to pay old bills. That's not an attractive sell. So, yeah.
Right, I've not heard, I heard this a while ago when we had a meeting, and I haven't heard any updates or anything. What about Michigan, I believe, was looking into downtown doing therapy on people? Is that still going to be a go?
Yeah, I think they had open house last week.
Oh, yeah,
it's open.
It is.
Well,
Okay. Right.
I don't worry about our physical department at all, therapy department at all. They'll be out of business. I mean, they got 2 new graduates they're bringing in. They don't have the relationship. Doctors don't like to write an order in one EMR and put it in another. It's you know, I've seen their business plan because I'm on the community foundation, and it's just unrealistic. They're trying to copy another city that's 10 times bigger than here. So
I know it'd be small, but is there anything as a community that we can do to help support or?
I mean, at the marathon station, you can donate extra money for the splash pad. I don't know.
Right. Exactly.
And that was Kami's idea, was to start a GoFundMe page. Another hospital did that and they got like $10,000. So I don't know if it's, I think people would donate. You know, it's
everything, every little bit can help. I mean,
Don't do the GoFundMe, do the foundation and have it designated for what you want it for.
Right. No, I think that's a good idea.
What I heard earlier was talking about contacting our representatives, state and federal, right?
Yep.
It sounds like you guys will be trying to help put some information out so people can find that product. I got a notion. We're gonna be meeting with them. That's one of the best things that we could do as soon as possible. So kind of like what's been asked. Are there other things that we as a community do to help get some help?
I mean, you guys need to know how blessed you are as a community. The one I came from, straight up Appalachia, unemployed, crackheads. I mean, you guys have a great community. The mayor's been supportive the whole time. The council's been supportive. The commissioners, I don't know if they know this end of the county. I hope none of them's in here. But they got $7.5 million from COVID money. We didn't get a penny of that. What COVID issues did they have in those 3 years?
We were the first to have a COVID clinic in our large area.
Right.
To care for people that drove here from
Which was
Indiana.
basically free care for.
Right.
Yeah.
said that you guys have been working with the state and federal government. You made a comment about the commissioners. That was something that I was thinking. If you're meeting with the state representatives and senators, I don't know if there are any commissioners in here tonight, but it would probably do some good if they could help row in the same direction as well.
Yeah, it's so the federal government's rural health care is covered by United States Department of Agriculture. So that's who's worked with us the most. They're trying to get us in another $380,000 to cover finances. They help support the MRI grant. They distributed $500,000 for us a year and a half ago for COVID coverage because it's expensive. So we work closely with the office in Columbus. They get us approved to go to Washington, and then it kind of gets lost there and comes back to us. The thing they're working on for us now is to delay our bond payments. I think it's $700,000 a year we pay in bonds. So if they could delay half that, that's huge. Marcy Cather out of Toledo, she just got gerrymandered down here. I'm sure it's going to change with the next election. So I can watch that. But we had an ER doctor, Dr. Wookie. He used to be Governor DeWine's coroner. So we had a direct phone line to his cell phone. So he was able to help get through this COVID money we got in June, which was about $800,000 to us. So they do work, but they are constrained by, they got to keep the budget in line, stuff like that. State budget 2 years. So we had to get every ask in there. And my neighbor in my hometown is head of the budget committee. So I was able to reach out to him and get as much from him. But he's constrained because half the state budget's Medicaid and they don't want to spend any more money on health care. So. Yeah.
I would think the commissioners would feel a little bit of ownership since being a township-owned entity.
Yeah, I mean that's their personal decisions and probably limited by what they can spend and not spend. I get it. Yes, sir.
Okay, you've given us a lot of information, of which I am very thankful. My wife is thankful also. But if it wasn't for your hard work and diligence, we wouldn't be in the position we're in now, because you've tried to make things a lot better and you've made things better. And I think the majority of people here feel that way, and I want to give you a hand.
That's why I came tonight, was for you, Roy. That's just not my job.
But I do believe anyone competent in hospital operations would have seen all this within first day. I've had a great team. Addie, Amy, Rob came back to support me. It's Betty's been beat up for so long, I don't even recognize her. Her hair's straight now.
It's just easier.
Yeah, it is. It's just getting, the old administration was a top-heavy down decision maker, and I don't have all the answers. I can never look as a CFO. CNO is the hardest job in healthcare. It is, you're beat up from the time you wake up to the time you get home. It's just, let them do the best things they can do. I get all the time and say we have the best cafeteria in healthcare. It's, yeah. It's the first crew I've ever seen smile. That's a lot of hospitals.
Because I love my job and I love the people I work with.
So I lied, I'm sorry. I was speaking with Dr. Groothouse, who is unable to be here today, but he's watching. He just wants to reiterate, he is 100% committed to this community. It's gonna look a little different. Our follow-up is usually going to be with me as a nurse practitioner, but he's here for it. He's here for us. This was kind of, like you said earlier, a blessing to get his salary off the bills so that we can continue to operate and do those surgeries.
Any other questions? Okay, if not, thank you. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for your input. Thank you for your comments. We appreciate that. If not, I need a motion, board, to go into executive session. Is there a second? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, everybody.